Hello guys, welcome back to the video. Today we are reacting to film theory. Rey is the next Darth Vader. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker by the film theorist. So I really don't expect, so 3, 2, 1, let's react.
Milk does a body good.
That's gross.
Oh sure, green milk grosses you all out, but no one had any complaints back when I was drinking blue milk.
Blue milk, okay.
Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory, where nothing in this entire vast universe can stop me from trying to correctly predict something, anything about Star Wars. That's right folks, today I will pay my respects to the age-old belief that if you fail at something you should try again, even if it threatens to turn you into the Jar Jar Binks of Star Wars theories. I mean, I've been wrong about Star Wars so many times that even me joking about being wrong about Star Wars is an opening that I've already used in a previous Star Wars video. A video where, surprise, surprise, I end up being wrong yet again. But in the words of someone important, I forget exactly who, let the past die. Kill it if you have to. And so I have. I've killed it, buried it in the middle of the Arizona desert, and burned off my fingerprints to make sure nothing is ever traced back to me. And so I'm back to the scene of the crime with a solid idea of what's gonna happen in the other major blockbuster finale we have coming out later this year, Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. It's a solid theory based on canon lore, solid narrative beats seeded into past movies, and even some necessary business decisions on the part of Disney. Then again, we've seen how much the last movie cared about all that stuff.
Okay.
Bruh.
Today's theory all starts with one thing: the laugh that lit the internet on fire. Nope, that's not Pennywise. At the end of the Episode 9 trailer, we get ourselves the iconic laugh of our old pal Sheev. Sheev Palpatine, the evil Emperor himself. Raisin Face. I mean, what is this guy doing back? Outside of very clearly trying to win back fans via nostalgia, prompt analysis videos like this one asking that very question, and also fill in the obvious gaping villain role that these movies now have after... Outside of small reasons like that, from a narrative standpoint, what is Sheev doing back here? Last we saw the Emperor, he was, well, kinda deader than a mannequin being thrown off of a catwalk and exploding into an energy core. Why? How? I have so many questions, and that is what our theory is today. Predicting the role that Emperor Palpatine will play in the upcoming finale to the Star Wars nonology. You don't hear too frequently people talking about 9-part series as a nonology, but that's technically the correct term. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my belief that Sheev Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, aka Dark Lord of the Sith himself, created Rey. That Rey is a part of an elaborate plot by the Emperor to live on even in the face of death. Sounds extreme, right? I know! It is! That's why it's so exciting, because it sounds so stupidly absurd. And yet, you know that I wouldn't be claiming this in an episode of this show if I didn't have any evidence to back it up.
I feel the conflict in you. It's tearing you apart.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
So no more conflict, friends. Let me show you what I got. See if I can draw you over to my side of the Force. First, let's take a look at Sheev himself. In Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine tells a young Anakin Skywalker about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. According to Palpatine,
Darth Plagueis was a dark lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise, he could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to create life.
Now, a quick note here. With the release of the new Star Wars movies, many people have called into question controversial additions to the universe that were made during the prequels, including, most famously, the midichlorians.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Midichlorians are a microscopic life form that resides within all living cells. They continually speak to us, telling us the will of the Force.
Are these things still canon? I mean, so many Star Wars fans want them to not be, but the official answer is yeah, they absolutely are. The rule of thumb here is that if it appears in the movies, or if it appears in a few select books that were published after 2015, it is still canon. And if we're talking about questionable canonicity, I mean, heck, in The Last Jedi, Luke uses a doppelganger technique to trick Kylo Ren. When fans jumped at the fact that this seemed like a brand new Jedi trick coming out of nowhere, writer and director Rian Johnson took to Twitter to prove that it was in The Jedi Path, a manual for
Jedi
students of the
Path.
Force, a 2010 book that wasn't considered canon by most, but to Ryan Johnson it was fair game. So basically, what is and isn't canon in this franchise can best be summarized like this.
Solo, we'll figure it out. We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
But that disclaimer aside, where were we again? Oh yeah!
Darth Plagueis was a dark lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise, he could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to create life.
So we know that somewhere out there, extreme sensitivity to the Force allows for control over life itself. So who is Darth Plagueis? Well, it doesn't matter because he's dead, son.
Unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew. Then his apprentice killed him in his sleep.
When Anakin asks if it's possible to learn the power to create life and keep people from dying, Palpatine tells him yes, but not from a Jedi. What Palpatine doesn't tell Anakin at the time is that Darth Plagueis' apprentice, Darth Sidious, is none other than Emperor Palpatine himself. Haha! And now we're getting somewhere. Because this tells us that Palpatine does indeed have the power to create life using the Force, or at the very least, has knowledge that the Force can be used to manipulate life forms in some way. But what cause would he have to do something like that? Well, though we don't hear a lot about this in the films, it's been very well established through supplemental canonical materials like Shattered Empire, the Aftermath novels, and The Last Jedi Expanded Edition that Emperor Palpatine made numerous contingency orders in the event of his early and untimely death. And when I say numerous contingency plans, I don't mean one, I don't mean 2 or even 10. I am talking 150. I guess it's best to be over-prepared. As he himself says in the novel Aftermath, quote, if an empire... Sorry, it just kind of sounds wrong in my usual voice. Let me try this again. Frog voice. Frog voice. I'm the Emperor. As I say in the novel Aftermath, if an empire cannot protect its emperor, then that empire must be deemed a failure. It collapses not only because its central figure is gone, but because it must not be allowed to remain. In short, these contingency plans were meant to be a final screw you to everyone who had a hand in his death, but like the most extreme screw you possible, since, you know, they entailed mass death at a galactic scale. A giant self-destruct plan that eradicates the rebels, while also cutting out most of his former empire, eliminating all the weakness within it so that its strongest elements live on and rebuild to be stronger than before. I've actually talked in depth about one of these particular plans over on Game Theory, Operation Cinder, which was the contingency plan featured prominently in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Again, a canonical source of lore where satellites were used to permanently change the climates of planets into hostile, deadly storms. Okay, so we've established that Palpatine has control over life and has a bunch of plans laid out for his untimely death. It's also probably worth noting here that one element of his contingency plan directly resulted in the creation of the First Order. Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't the only one wondering where these guys came from at the beginning of Star Wars Episode 7. You go from Episode 6 with happy dancing teddy bears and another Death Star explosion giving a final kick in the balls to the Empire, and then suddenly The Force Awakens starts where it's like, oh yeah, there are these other new guys now? I mean, I was in the theater being like, what? Where did they come from? I'm sorry. All we're given is that Luke leaves and suddenly the rebellion is like, whoops, we happen to let in the space Nazis. Oh yeah, and P.S. they also have a bigger death ball. Dear Rebellion, here's some real talk for ya. If one space magician takes a vacation and he can't detect a giant planet of death sneaking in under your noses, maybe you shouldn't be the ones in charge of things. Oh, and by the way, you, 1 minute text scroll in front of the movie setting up everything that I'm supposed to know about? Sorry, that's not enough information for me. Anyway, rant aside, the First Order was born in a pretty complicated way, but born nonetheless from Palpatine's contingency plans. True to his plan, the weak parts of the Empire were culled away, those who remained retreated into the unknown regions of space aboard Emperor Palpatine's megaship the Eclipse, and they came back stronger. They came back as the First Order. As it said in the book, quote, it's time to start over. That is our First Order. to begin again and to get it right this time.
Okay.
See, there it is. First order. So we have
First
ourselves
order.
contingency plans, force-driven life control, and a connection to the events that we see playing out in the movies. But what does any of this have to do with Rey and Rise of the Skywalker? Cause yeah, I remember that was the thesis I started this entire episode out with. Well, buckle up, friends, because it's time we talk about the Jakku Observatory. Yeah, the very same Jakku where Rey was left and grew up on. The Jakku Observatory was part of a network of observatories across the galaxy, built by none other than Emperor Palpatine himself as part of those death contingency plans. Not all that much is said about the Jakku Observatory, but we do know some crucial details about it. One, that it housed ancient Sith relics. Two, that in building it, he had to bore down to the center of the planet. And three, that Palpatine outright says he considers Jakku very important to his plans. To quote from the book, Palpatine told him that once the world was verdant, overgrown with green and home to oceans. He said that though the surface of the world no longer shows it, the core still has that vital spark of life essence. Are you ready? Rax asked Palpatine's old advisor. I am. Palpatine lives on. We will find him again out there in the dark. Everything has arranged itself as our master foretold. So we have ourselves a mysterious station that houses powerful ancient Force relics built by the Emperor who is paranoid about dying, which drills down to the core of a planet that we're explicitly told has untapped life essence. And all of this is happening on Rey's home planet, a planet where, mind you, she has no memories of her parents or her childhood. A desert planet that, according to the Star Wars Episode 9 trailer, we're gonna be revisiting in this latest movie. If that doesn't get your midichlorians in a twist, I don't know what will. So we've got ourselves a motive, a method, and a location, all of which coming from Palpatine's side. But what about Rey herself? Have there been any clues to this being her possible origin in the movies? Well, yeah, actually, there's been plenty of evidence toward that. We've certainly seen signs of a possible dark side connection from her, and it all begins here, the Mirror Cave from The Last Jedi. When she first begins her training with Luke in The Last Jedi, she's immediately drawn to this mysterious tunnel underground, which symbolically leads directly to darkness.
There's something else beneath the island. A place. A dark place.
Balance. Powerful light, powerful darkness.
It's a call. It's calling me.
You went straight to the dark.
But that's not all. Rey gives into it, even after being warned against it by Luke. She descends into the cave to find her parents. It's a clear parallel to Luke's trip into the cave in Dagobah during his training, but instead of being fearful of what she sees inside like Luke is, Rey is calm, as she herself says.
I should have felt trapped or panicked, but I didn't. Or I knew it was leading somewhere.
But here's the biggest kicker. When Rey asks to see her parents, she sees two figures morph into one, and then a reflection of herself appears. It's odd, right? It's like the cave is playing a prank on her. Despite her being comfortable in this place and seemingly mastered its use, she ends up not getting the answers that she wanted out of this thing. I mean, this cave is either the world's biggest jerk, or it actually did answer the questions she asked it. Consider this. Maybe it doesn't show her parents because she has none. Maybe it shows her two figures merging into one because she only does have one parent. Palpatine, which is then revealed to be herself because that's all there is. There's Palpatine and then her. She's a clone of Palpatine, or a little girl who is manipulated by Palpatine, or whatever symbolism and explanation you want. Take your pick. I'm not exactly sure what she is, just that she was created or manipulated in some way by Palpatine as a revenge plot. And lastly, let's think about what this would mean for the story. First, it would address one of the biggest mysteries of these last three movies in a satisfying new way. Instead of Rey's parentage literally being a throwaway plot thread, something used to string us along or make some wider point about not being special, it suddenly would have a payoff established and believable within the existing lore. Clones and Force manipulation are canonical things that every casual fan of this series knows. No need to have Mary Poppins flying through space this time. And after the controversial reception of the last movie, and then Solo after it, Star Wars needs something huge that's gonna be well liked by pretty much all audiences who go to see this thing. It's also also pretty easy to retcon this into the story as it's going. I mean, sure, Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi tells Rey that her parents are nobodies, but how would he know the Emperor's plot? How could he know the Emperor's plot? He especially wouldn't know about the Emperor's secret plan because this was Palpatine's last big secret. Sheev's contingency plans brought back his empire through the First Order, and now the highly Force-sensitive girl with questionable parentage that just so happens to be on the planet where he has a weird laboratory is starting to get lured away by the dark side. I don't know about you, but that certainly feels like a viable candidate for Palpatine's replacement. Thematically, it works well too. It makes all 9 movies in this franchise about the Skywalkers and the Palpatines, our heroes and our villains. The prequels are all about Anakin Skywalker growing up under the guidance of Darth Sidious, a corrupting force. Then you have the original trilogy, all about the Skywalkers, both Anakin and Luke, dealing with Palpatine and his Emperor at the height of its power. And now this new trilogy is about the new wave of Skywalker, Luke passing it on to Kylo Ren, who, remember, is Leia's son, a Skywalker, even if she's never really called that, dealing with Palpatine from beyond the grave in the form of Rey. There's also that good old George Lucas quote that we mention all the time.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Well, Rey being connected to Palpatine actually sets up the potential for a rhyming story with Kylo Ren, the character that we've seen as Rey's counterpart through these movies. He's a villain, sort of, but at the end of Force Awakens, we see him flirt with being good. In The Last Jedi, that struggle continues. Meanwhile, we have ourselves Rey, who's been flirting with the darkness. She's exposed to it more and more. So if Kylo were to emerge from the darkness and Rey were to descend into it, bam! Classic Star Wars counterpoint parallelism. It's poetic, it's satisfying, and darn it, what a great twist for the girl to be the main villain. And most importantly, if this theory were to be true, it's steeped in enough grounded lore and established characterization that fans won't have petitions to remake the whole darn thing. Then again, I've made strong cases for theories that would have reflected excellent storytelling in the past and been wrong before, but you know what, it's fine. I'm not bitter much. So there you have it, theorists. Rey was created by Palpatine, or his loyal followers in the event of his death, on Jakku at the Jakku Observatory. That's why we hear his laugh. And why, by the end of Rise of Skywalker, she'll have gone complete villain. It explains Rey's natural talents with the Force, her inclination towards the dark side, and Palpatine's return in the upcoming film, all while being super poetic and emphasizing the classic Star Wars themes about the struggles between good and evil. And let's just face it, it's a great twist to have this girl who's been set up as our hero be the ultimate villain all along. But hey, that's just
So yeah guys, thanks for watching, and of course, peace out, everybody. Peace.